Hey guys, welcome back to Reserved Investments on YouTube. So let's discuss the recent sale of the Incredible Hulk 181 in CGC 9.8 condition that sold through Heritage for $138,000. Now, assuming you're not living under a rock, assuming you actually are active in the buying and selling of investment grade comic books, Incredible Hulk 181 is considered a major Bronze Age key simply because it is the first full appearance of Wolverine. And yes, I have to say it that way because if I don't, the little Timmies, Kimmies, and Poindexters that think Incredible Hulk 180 should be considered the first true appearance of Wolverine always will come into the comment section and correct me. Now, I'm not going to weigh in on that debate. For those unaware, Incredible Hulk 181 is considered the first full appearance of Wolverine, not Incredible Hulk 180. As much as some of you want that to be the case, the collecting community has already decided, and they give that award to Incredible Hulk 181. That doesn't mean that Incredible Hulk 180 isn't a key in its own right. It doesn't mean that Incredible Hulk 180 should be deemed quote-unquote worthless or X number percent of Incredible Hulk 181's value. I'm not going to cover that in this video, but just know I hear a lot of nonsense being spouted about on collecting forums and the like. Just to clarify my stance, I do see Incredible Hulk 181 as the first true full appearance of Wolverine. But that says, I also acknowledge Incredible Hulk 180 as a key issue in its own right. Now, in case you guys did not see this latest auction, this sold through Heritage Auctions on September 8th, 2022. And the $138,000 price for this copy of Incredible Hulk 9.8 also includes the buyer's premium that Heritage does charge. Now, this is a very monumental amount to be paid for this particular book because back in June 16th, if I remember correctly, Heritage also sold another copy of this book in 9.8 condition for $102,000. So this particular copy that just sold literally just a few months later sold for $36,000 more. And there's a lot of people that are now claiming, oh, this is the it book. This book is on an incline. This book is going to go to the moon and back. This is the book to own. Well, let me remind you guys that one sale does not a market make. So for those of you that have a copy of this book in 9.8 condition, yes, I salute you. It's a very interesting trajectory, how we got to this point, but you can't now claim that your book is worth $138,000 because we don't know what the next sale is going to be or where it's going to appear. There are other dynamics in this market at play. Remember, guys, the auction price does not always equal the market price. In fact, let me just state that another way. The auction price never equals the market price. And this is something that a lot of people get wrong. They think, well, I'm sitting here with a copy of Incredible Hulk 181 in 9.8 condition, therefore my copy's worth $138,000. Well, unfortunately, Timmy, you didn't consign your book to this particular auction to the point where the high bidder that bought this book had either another option or could have bought yours for that same sum, or the underbidder, however we want to look at this. Plus, there's no guarantee if two copies of Incredible Hulk 181 in CGC 9.8 show up in the same auction, obviously the end results aren't going to be as high as just having one copy in that particular auction. Now, I know what you're saying. Well, Sean, approximately how many copies of Incredible Hulk 181 in CGC 9.8 are out there? Well, I got the answers for you because unlike most speculators who just want to talk about their love of Wolverine, their love of Marvel comic books, and think that these books are just going to keep going up and up year after year, and they are a solid investment that you could just put away and forget about, I actually do the research on the back end. So I'm going to share this information with you. First, you need to be aware, Incredible Hulk 181, there are a ton of copies out there across all grades. As a matter of fact, CGC has graded, just CGC alone, has graded 15,968 copies total of this book across all grades. And that also means across all monikers. So I'm including restored books in that. I'm including qualified books. And of course, I am including universal grade books, which most people do go after if they are buying investment grade comics to attempt to speculate and invest in, and also to a lesser extent, signature series books. So that's all included in that number. There are 15,968 copies out there. There is one copy of this book in 9.9 condition. There are no 10s, but there is a lone 9.9 out there. As for copies in 9.8, there are roughly 147 copies of this book in 9.8 condition. You got to understand, guys, comic books that came about in the mid-1970s were adequately hoarded. A lot of people were speculating on books at that particular time, and to be fair, those speculators did very well. But you got to understand, the 1970s to the 2020s, we're talking literally about a 50-year gap here. So those of you that were lucky enough to be alive in 1974, maybe you're probably 20, maybe 30 years older than me, and you were buying them from the newsstand. If you did buy them and you kept them in near mint condition to today, yes, to be fair, you did excellent. But most of the people that are in this market, they did not buy them back from the newsstand. Now, I know what you're going to say, Sean, if you look at the comic book marketplace, even if you would have bought these type of books back in 2010, hell, even in some cases in 2012, 2015, you did phenomenal in your returns, which is why we're getting to the crux of this video. In my opinion, I have people that come to me and they say, hey, Sean, I have a book like this in 9.6, 9.8 condition. What is your advice? I'm really not emotionally attached to it. If that's the case, and you're not going to buy it again, I honestly would say you should be selling into this market, especially if you bought this book prior to 2015. If you bought this book in 9.2, 9.4, 9.6 condition, like when I was buying mine back in around 2010, 2012, you have done very well. In my opinion, if you're not emotionally attached to this book, now is the time to sell into the hype and capture some of those gains. Now, I know what you're probably asking. Well, Sean, there's 147 of those books in 9.8. How many in 9.6 and 9.4 condition are out there, respectfully? Well, in 9.6 condition, there's 377 copies of this book graded by CGC alone. In 9.4, there's 614. Now, if you guys go back to a lot of the earlier videos that I did, where I talk about investment grade as it's defined in the antiques and collectibles trade, if you want to own this book in investment grade condition, which means you got to own it in the top 15 percentile of the market. To own this particular book in that definition of investment grade, you'd have to own it in 9.2 condition or higher. No disrespect. I know there's a lot of people that are going to hate me. They're going to call me elitist for saying this. I am so sick of going on CGC collecting forums, comic book collecting forums, and they're holding up their copy of Incredible Hulk 181 in CGC 8.5 or 9.0 condition, and they're calling it investment grade or high grade. I am sorry. Again, there are 15,968 copies of this book that have been graded in all grades by CGC alone. There are 614 books in 9.4 condition. If you have this book in 9.0 condition or 8.5 condition or even a grade somewhere under there, you do not have this book in investment grade, nor do you own it in high grade, in my opinion, from the way that I analyze the CGC census and these particular markets. It all goes back to a concept I introduced on this channel many, many moons ago called the optimal collecting grade. In my opinion, in my assessment, if you want my assessment, and I am a consultant in the trade, you can see my email address in the video description below. You can set up a consult with me if you so desire. This particular book is in investment grade condition if you have it in 9.4 condition or higher. Your 9.2 condition book, while it's true, it does meet the definition of being in investment grade. In my opinion, due to how many copies are out there on the market, I would not be buying this book in 9.2 and calling it an investment. I honestly predict if copies of this book in 9.8 condition are going to routinely sell for well over $100,000, people are going to go to the market. They're going to start bidding up 9.6 condition books, and or they're going to hold them thinking that the trajectory of 9.8 is going to pull up the value of their 9.6, which is very probable. No disrespect to the people that are thinking that right now. Or they're going to crack open those 9.6s. They're going to try to get them pressed. They're going to resubmit them to CGC, and they're going to hope they get a 9.8 condition book coming back. Because now the value between a 9.6 and a 9.8, the spread is becoming too large. And that's going to attract a lot of high-profile collectors and investors that have the cash to pretty much gamble. By doing that, it's worth the risk at this particular point. I saw somebody did list on one of the CGC forums or Facebook groups that I belong to. Somebody did list a 9.6 for $30,000. And to be fair, if you have the means, you're looking to play in this market against my advice, if you would want to do that, you want to take the gamble, that's up to you. Now, to be fair, do I see Incredible Hulk 181s dropping substantially? The answer is no. And I want to make that very clear. If you have this book, you're looking to cash out of part of your CGC graded or high-grade comic book collection, sure, you should be selling into the hype. But if you're somebody that wants to hold a collection of books that either you love or you just don't need the money, there's actually no reason to sell into this market if you're holding a 9.2 or a 9.4 or even, heaven forbid, a 9.6 right now. But what I will tell you is, if you have a 9.8 condition book, right now you're going to get top dollar for it. And there's no guarantee that prices are going to keep rising for a book at that level. Remember, guys, there are very few people out there that can afford to pay 6 figures or more for one collectible or one antique. You need to understand that when you are starting to get to that level of the market, there has to be a buyer. Right now, comic books are very hot, specifically vintage key comic books. And when we start talking about the Wolverine, when we start talking about Incredible Hulk, when we start talking about top tier characters, especially in the Marvel universe, the sky right now is pretty much the proverbial limit, meaning there's a lot of players in this market. There is no guarantee that this market is going to continue like this 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. You got to understand that when collectors analyze a market, they need to also compare that market to other collecting categories. For instance, a lot of people watch my channel and they hate me because of my views on Pokemon, because I consider Pokemon very speculative right now. Well, 30 years from now, if Pokemon starts to gain even more steam than it already has, and it still starts to go mainstream, there's going to be probably people that would have put their money in comic books that are now pulling that money out of comic books and they're putting it in Pokemon cards or graded video games or vintage toys. Whatever it is, this is one reason why I do not like pop culture collectibles over the long term. When you invest or when you collect pop culture collectibles, you always have to have your hand on the pulse. There's nothing historic about them. It's just what's in the public consciousness at present time. And right now, the reason why pop culture collectibles are soaring to new heights, superheroes are in the public consciousness big time with Disney streaming, Disney Plus, with what's happening on the silver screen. It's just everybody is focused on comic books, Pokemon, video games, vintage Star Wars, G.I. Joe, whatever it is. These markets are soaring simply because they're in the public consciousness. There's no guarantee this is going to continue 5, 10, 15, 20 years into the future. That's why, like I tell you guys, if we're comparing the market of Pokemon cards versus that of Magic the Gathering, believe it or not, from a collector standpoint and even a little bit from an investor standpoint, I like Magic the Gathering a little bit better. Do you know why? It's more organic. There's too many people during the pandemic that were reading about how you could flip collectibles and you can make money. And they all entered the Pokemon space. And now, because they made a little bit of money, these are the people that are coming into the comment section. These are the people that are sending me emails, attacking me, because I'm lighting pretty much the proverbial warning fire that, hey, The Pokemon Group just announced they're going to be pumping out 9 billion cards in 1 year. And I'm one of the few people on YouTube that are trying to warn a lot of Pokemon collectors regarding this as to how it's going to have an impact on the market going forward for the modern era stuff. Now, if you tell me, Sean, I invest in Pokemon, I'm only going after high-grade, third-party graded WotC Wizards of the Coast era cards, by all means, you do you. That could prove to be a wise move, assuming you understand opportunity costs, time value of money, and you're not putting your entire net worth into Pokemon cards. But with that being said, markets move differently throughout the antiques and collectibles trade. Collectibles are more linear. Antiques are more cyclical. That's why I choose for the long term. Coins, currency, historical documents, items of more of a historical nature. Those pretty much are the best pieces to invest in for the long term. So now that you waited 16 minutes into this video, I can tell you, I honestly am not surprised by the fact that this particular book, this Incredible Hulk 181 in CGC 9.8 condition, sold for $138,000. That being said, it's going to be very interesting to see what the next Incredible Hulk 181 in 9.8 condition sells for and what the one after that sells for, because then we can kind of assess a trend. I'm hoping, I really hope that there is a pullback in this market. Before you criticize me for saying that, you got to understand, I have a very valuable vintage comic book collection myself. And the reason why I'm saying that is a pullback in the market would actually preserve the market by and large for many more years to come. If prices keep going up, what's going to happen is you're going to get all these speculators, all these wannabe unsophisticated investors are going to come into the market. Then once that market pulls back, they're going to dump their supply into the market, and it's going to hurt the market by and large. This is something that you don't want to happen, guys. Trust me, I've seen this in so many other collecting categories. It's almost destroyed them, and it took years, in some cases decades, for those markets to recover. That was the crux of what happened back in the 1990s with modern era comic books, when publishers just went all in and just started releasing stuff. There were people going in and they just kept buying, bidding up prices. And eventually the market couldn't take anymore. There was a massive pullback. And it took roughly 10 years or so for comic books, even vintage comic books, to become a thing once again. And that really didn't happen until CGC started grading them. And then what happened? We had the rise of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, to a lesser extent, the DC Comic Universe. And that's what propelled them to new heights. Please understand, in closing, the antiques and collectibles trade does not work the way you think it does. There's a lot of very bad information out there on collecting forums, on YouTube, on TikTok. There's a lot of people that think they understand these markets. Those are the people that generally get slapped in the face with a stale donut. There are dealers, CGC comic dealers that are highly respected, that even will state that there needs to be a pullback in this market soon, and it's going to be healthy if there is. Now, to be fair, lower grade comic books have already somewhat experienced a pullback. Prices are not high across the board like this one sale of an Incredible Hulk 181 in CGC 9.8. There are books that tremendously pulled back, even in 9.4 condition, 9.2 condition, in certain cases 9.6 condition, that are Bronze Age keys, Copper Age keys, even to a certain degree, certain Silver Age keys. Now, truth be told, if you were to come to me and you were going to say, hey, Sean, I have $150,000 to spend on vintage comic books, I would tell you not to buy a CGC 9.8 copy of Incredible Hulk 181. You would be better off taking that 150 grand and honestly putting it in a Silver Age Mega Key, or even, if you can afford it, even a lower or mid-grade Golden Age key. And that's my advice for a lot of you that are watching this video, looking at this sale, going, wow, well, if I buy it for 138, assuming I can get it for 138, and it goes to like 200, 250 grand, you know how much money I'm going to make? In my assessment, unless if you are very well off, and when I say very well off in this terminology, I'm talking millions of dollars. it is not worth the opportunity cost or the risk when we look at time value of money. That's really how I'm going to end this video. I went kind of off on a rant there. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and thank you for watching.